because we talk about in our events giving power to people because I think we have a hard time, some of us, thinking that we can change things. So how can politicians give people power?
To be honest, I don't think politicians need to give people power because people have power, but politicians need to be better at showing that people do have power. We need to show that we listen. We need to be where people are. We need to regularly step out of our meeting rooms and just listen. Maybe not have a specific schedule, just more or less, well, the easy part is the home office style that some countries use. The other part is going to where people have coffee at work and just say, tell me things. Tell me anything that's on your mind. Because people do have power, but we need to show it more than once every 4 years. The other thing, sorry, just stealing the microphone. Since I seem to be the högerspöke, the capitalist boy here, I just want to give you some arguments. Because seriously, there's no such thing as a free market. People talk about it, but it doesn't exist. We have different VAT, different taxes on alcohol, on books, on food, and so on, because we know that changes people's behavior. If we increase the tax on alcohol, the VAT, people drink less. If we lower the tax on books, people buy more books. I don't know if they read them, but they buy more books. And I think that, I mean, the market's not free. It never has been, never will be. And by changing the market or regulating the market in a wise way, we can make people buy more things that are already used, things that are ugly, but taste as well anyway. So I think we need to, how should I say? I need, as some kind of a right-wing person, not far to the right, but center-right kind of, I need to look at your ideas and think, what if you're actually right sometimes? And I think some of you, maybe not two of you, but some of you, need to look at this market thing and think, maybe we can use it. Maybe that's a tool that we can actually use to change the way people behave. So use the market. Don't fight it, just use it for your own purposes.
Thank you. I'm going to rebel a little bit and steer away from the program, the schedule that we have, because Lina needs to go. So she's going to miss the part where the audience gets to talk to the panelists. So I was wondering if somebody here has a burning question or something they would like to say to Lina before she leaves. Come on, don't be shy. Or maybe it's better for you so you can already go.
You can email me, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find me on call me if there's something.
A comment, a quick one, please.
Yes. Great. It seems that new politicians are willing to listen to people. That's a very healthy sign. Very promising. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming here. And we want to give you a little gift before you go as a thank you, for coming here, participating, sharing your knowledge, your opinions.
Do you remember us?
Yeah. So a sticker and those little bit of chocolate. Thank you
so much.
Have a nice evening. Do we send the question? Yeah. Because I was thinking she answered the question about what politicians can do, but not.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay if we take that question with you too? Yeah? No. Now that we're already in it. You remember the question?
What can we do to people? Yeah.
But good to say it again, because we have a lot of it. Yeah. I think Lina is a very smart politician. It's too bad that she left now when I'm saying it. But she. Know that she's a smart politician. She's one of the liberals I really like the most. So with that said, she said a lot of good things. People do have a lot of powers. I mean, we have elections and we are actually quite trying to tune into what people want. I mean, that's kind of the point of the elections. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes we are a bit afraid of telling bad news because then you might not re-elect us. So there's some both there. Maybe we should be able to talk more about some things that are not so good, and also that you should tell us how things are from the other perspective, because what COVID really showed us, I think, is that when we don't meet people, because we couldn't really meet people very much for 2 years, is that we lack a lot of these ground perspective things. Some people do email, some people do write on social media, some people call, but not so many. I mean, a lot of the things that we do as politicians, that we're trying to be out and about, talk to people, make study visits, or what do you call it in English, on different places, like both the things that are municipality owned or run stuff, but also other places. And that is something that really lacked. And I think it somehow showed up in the election as well, because then there was like a big ketchup feeling everything at once. So that's one. But also on the other note, call us, contact us. It can also be made. I think a lot of things are also we need to be able to communicate and try to understand each other, because sometimes we are trying to be, we're not trying to be bureaucratical, but you end up being that because you're in the system. And sometimes you have an idea and we don't know how to fit it into the system. But I think we can overcome that.
Very well said, Hanna. But also, I think, especially now, people in these times, people really want and need to be part of a solution, and have this very urgent feeling like, I need to do something. I need to do something about this. I need to be part of the betterment of society. And I think that we can only be in so many places in one time, like the politicians themselves. And so we cannot be there every time when things are happening. We need to make sure everything is happening everywhere at once. And then we need to be out there, but we cannot be everywhere at once. So this should happen in all schools. This should happen in all workplaces, in all social gatherings. The transition should be all over. And that is the empowerment of everyone. And what we need to do is to encourage that, to find structures, to find to lift people up, and then of course be there among them. But we cannot it should happen everywhere all at once, and we are not that many politicians to be everywhere. So I mean, we need to find the means to just lift up and empower people in the structure. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. And with this, I think we can go to the break. I forgot to say one thing that I thought might have confused people. We had initially planned to invite another speaker, Michael Jones from SLU, but he was sick, so he couldn't come, and that's why we invited Azril. Yeah. I mean, we had wanted to invite someone representing grassroots movements, but we had a lot of panelists, so it just happened that we could make it work. Yeah, but thank you. We are gonna come back in how long?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. You can have fika, you can talk to each other, approach to the panelists or not. And then we come back and we will take questions from the audience or more questions from us. Or the panelists might ask questions to each other as well, if you want. All right. Thank you for staying here. I hope you're enjoying your fika. We're going to start again. I'm always cutting Azril. Sorry. Yeah, I would like to start with sharing something that somebody who's here today came and talk to me about. And now I'm a little bit nervous because I'm talking to all of you and I didn't prepare this because it just happened. Yeah, so it's someone who is in a vulnerable socioeconomic situation and who comes to our market. If anyone here doesn't know, I can explain. We organize weekly markets where we collect food from different suppliers and we give it to people on a donation-based market, so people can take whatever they want and pay whatever they can. So this person came to talk to me and said that she's very grateful for having access to this market. And she said that some people are scared because of the situation that we live in today. That we live in the middle of many crises, and some people can't afford food in Sweden. And she just wanted to say that we could get more help growing our own food, for example, at home, in pots, or having, colony lots. There's something it's very common in Uppsala, I think. So she just wanted to express how she feels, and I'm very grateful for her being here today, because we want everybody to be represented, and as many opinions, as many questions, as many comments as possible, so that you can also take something with you. That was it. Thank you. Thank you. Do you wanted to say something, or you just okay? Well, now we can take questions from the audience. We can take questions from panelists to other panelists. We can have a space for panelists to say whatever they did not have time to say. Now we can start with you.
Okay, you need to interrupt me when it's getting too much. But what you said now is so important. I think there is so much to do, like both with, for example, the food that isn't eaten, like in schools, for example, could we provide that to people who want like a good dinner and they cannot afford it, I think that is would be such an opportunity, because there are schools like all over Uppsala, but also like I talked before about urban farming, and I also think that is a great opportunity. Of course, you cannot grow all year round in Sweden, but you can grow some, and you can do that as a complement. And for many, that is like a very it is very important part of like getting the nutrition you want and need. So it's I think also like there should be not only colony nuts because they cost money and stuff, but also like open common spaces to grow food. And we have tried that out in a few places in Uppsala, and like also places there where the municipality grows something and you can pick it when it grows up, and like people who walks by water it, and it has worked out perfectly. So I think that is also something to build upon, that we can do that. So there are a lot of things that I think we could do more of. Also, like both when it comes to like growing food locally, also getting connected with local restaurants, local suppliers, and also using like the municipalities, like schools and other kitchens that have more food that they can actually that these children needs. Because of course they cannot cook less food than the students eat. So I think that would be such an opportunity if we could build upon that and do something.
Thank you. We have a hand raised there. If you say the question, I can repeat it on the mic.
Yeah, very interested. You said something about it, but you know more about how Uppsala is working to promote like urban farming, because you know like Malmö, Liberalerna is working very actively with it.
So the question is how the municipality is working to promote urban farming.
So we had actually 1 year where we did like we put a lot of effort into developing our urban farming opportunities here in Uppsala, and that was maybe 2017, I think, maybe. And we looked at Södertälje, Växjö, Göteborg. Göteborg is actually the one that puts most effort into it, and they have like a very continuous work with that, how to work like in the city, and actually, but we learned a lot from them, like how we could, for example, right now we are building a lot in Uppsala, and we have made sure that like in some spots where you're going to build, we have planned to build housing, like in the meantime, it could be years before you build housing there, and in the meantime you could provide that, for example, if someone wants to grow stuff. So that is one thing that we learned from Gothenburg, actually. But also during that year we had all the public the flowers and everything, the ornaments in the city were edible or good for biodiversity in some other way. So you could like eat strawberries on the yeah, and Stadsparken had, yeah, they had a lot of things in Stadsparken, and like everywhere. It was mostly edible, and like you can go outside for lunch and just pick something and put in your food, and that was amazing for many. That was also when we found out that people didn't really know that you could pick fruits and berries from the like public trees. So like all the trees and the bushes that are on public ground you can actually use, and there is a map for that actually. Now, so you can see what is where, like what fruits can you pick where on the public space, and that is for everyone. Yeah, it's on the homepage Uppsala.se, but I can send it to you if you want to, or anyone that I have the contact details of, and you can spread it, because I think that is also one thing, because that is also waste. Like apples were falling down and rotting because people were afraid to pick them. So that's also when we found out that people don't know that they can actually use it. It's for everyone. It is actually for everyone. It is the public space. So that is also one thing. Oh yeah, there is so much to say about this. Sorry, maybe I should stop now.
Yeah. Azril, yeah, you can take that mic. Actually, if you want, you can sit there so you can share mic.
So, my fellow panelists, two questions. One, what is your take on GMOs, genetically modified foods? So there was one question, and one that links Uppsala to the Amazons in Brazil. We know that a lot of the fires in the last years with Bolsonaro in Brazil are to facilitate grazing for cattle, then it is exported, the meat industry, and transgenic soy. So the question would be, in general, how do you see, regard this, like Azril seems to be very biased for GMOs, for example, yeah, a small minority that don't take that line. But then, as politicians, you think you could influence something like a policy, not imports from the at the cost of the forestry, the tropical forest, is any way to veto, because in the chain of production we have the big retailers, ICA, Coop, and so on, buying products from that area of the world in Brazil, in the Amazon. So there's anything that politically you could do from the local council. So there, maybe the GMO question more addressed to you, and then of course it's open. Yeah, that would be.
I was just wondering if you could address it to someone. So it's good that you picked someone, because we have a little bit more than 20 minutes, and I'm guessing the audience has a lot of things to say too.
So I cannot speak for all the SLU, but I think it's very important to distinguish between GMO and genome edited crops. Because GMO is when you insert foreign DNA into the cell structure, and genome edited crops is when you just activate or deactivate. This is very simply put, but you don't change any of the DNA structure. So it's more similar to conventional plant breeding, as we have done for generations since we started cultivating crops. So there are risks, of course, with GMO, but currently they are considered the same thing. So neither of them are allowed. I think there are a few crops like rapeseed oil that is allowed to be sold in the EU, but otherwise it's not allowed to do. So, and I think that in a study that we did recently on actually producing plant protein from potatoes, we saw that there could be very huge environmental benefits if we were actually allowed to use these not GMO, but genome edited crops. So the more plant breeding varieties, then we could produce a complete source of protein from potatoes, which is similar to the ones that you would receive from eggs. So it's a full source of protein, so it could replace meat, for instance. And this is something that we currently produce in Sweden as a byproduct from the potato starch industry. But since we cannot use the genome edited crops, we have to discard it, and it's mostly used as animal feed. So this kind of limits what kind of resources that we can actually produce and use as food. Yes. No, yeah. Oh, it was high. Not quite.
Meat production and food production and the animals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fuel deforestation. So,
To not destroy Brazil.
Yeah.
More or less.
and what can we do?
Yeah. How can we locally try not to destroy Brazil? Sorry to make it. I would say. So in some ways it's tricky, some ways it's easy. I mean, of course we can, like when you do this offentlig upphandling, I don't remember the name in English, but it's a EU law, but how we can actually buy things. It's a bit complicated because sometimes it would be easier if we could be like any business. You just go and you negotiate the deal and then you buy things. Then you can kind of during that negotiation see what you want, and you can see what you don't want, and you can change things in the process. In some ways, we can do more of that, I think, now, but it has been very rigid. So we have to say we want exactly this, and somebody tells that they can produce that. And sometimes when we see their answer, we might see like, maybe we don't want exactly that anyways. And if we want to redo it, it can take a lot of time, and that can be tricky because then we need the food right now. So there are things in that makes it tricky, but we can do things. So we can actually state like the criteria, what we want to buy. So in that sense, we can say we don't want to buy bad stuff, but we can also, it comes from the EU regulation. So it's important that it's not setting the market out of place. Like if you're from Germany or from Sweden or from somewhere in the EU, you should be able to compete in the same sort of conditions. So we could, of course, say that we wanted to be and not using too much carboxide for it to be produced and transported. That can also make it like local, but it can be, you see, it can be tricky how to make this in a good way. But we can do, there are possibilities. So that is one thing. And then we have this other part. We are part of like the fair trade city, trying to buy things that are fair trade. And I don't know if all of those are actually within like all the things that you're talking about are actually within the fair trade system, but
some of the things that are within fair trade system is usually goods that can be not so good produced, and usually people that are producing it can have a really low pay. So being that we actually do take a stance and say that we should, when we especially buy things on the global market, where we know that there are different conditions. Everybody don't have the Swedish social security system. Everybody don't have have things that we do. Then we should actually not take advantage of that, but we should take some sort of responsibility. And I think that is a good thing. Maybe it could actually be broader.
I was thinking about what you said, because there are some good examples now on how to use that tool, like how to buy food, so that we don't have to buy, for example, from one big provider, because that is usually not the best when it comes to both climate, environment, and working conditions and everything. So, for example, we would be able to use the tool, for example, to buy from more small local providers if we use it right. I think there are some good examples now, but it has been very tricky. And also, I think both of our parties are in favor of, for example, reducing the meat consumption in like the municipality. So that is also like one way, like where we could pinpoint that those exact products. Also because we have to reach our climate goals that are also an issue with meat. So that is one thing, but then I think there should be like legislation on this, and we cannot do that on a local level. So I mean, we need to get to this also with the national parliament, because otherwise there won't be like, I mean, we can do some things, we can use the tools that we have, but we can't legislate. So that is the thing.
Sorry, I just want to add on that we as politicians, we can also try to, like, the laws are what they are, the framework is what it is, but we can usually try to expand that and try where is the actual borders of this framework. And sometimes we don't do that because these are the frameworks, but some of the ideas is that we should actually go forward and see where is the actual border, because I don't know, but to be able to challenge the framework, because we can do it and then you go to court and then we get a ruling on where is the actual border.
Do you want to add to this? I just feel like I need to turn to the audience and see if we have something. Do we have something here? Yes.
And about regulation in space, because I feel we talk a lot about consumers and their decision on what to buy and what to waste. But we heard, so for example, the broccoli, it's not even provided in supermarkets, people buy the food. And also, me as a consumer, I keep track of what I waste, but I can't make supermarkets keep the food. So what is your idea? What regulations do you want to pass to stop supermarkets from being allowed to waste food, or how you want to?
So the question is, what regulations do politicians want to pass on food waste?
Food waste and how food gets available also the food that's not good.
And how can we make food that is currently not sold at the supermarkets be more available? I'm just repeating the question because we're recording and maybe it's not audible.
The Green Party wants to make it illegal for grocery stores to throw away food. They made this decision in France, and we can do it here. So that is like the easy question, but then there is also like, of course, finding the ways to how this food can get out to the people who need it most, and how also to like preserve it if you need to. We talked before about the many ways you can handle broccoli, like to use all the stems and everything, like to freeze dry it and soups, and I mean there are many ways like to use the whole product and to lengthen the lifespan of the product itself and everything, and but also like just getting it to the right people in time so that they will be able to use it. But yeah, that is the short answer, I think. But I also think that there is a lot of focus on consumers and not enough focus on like other parts of the chain.
Yes, I just want to connect to what you just mentioned. Regarding whether we can actually make food waste illegal is something that we are currently researching at SLU, at my research group. And actually producing like freeze-dried items from what we are wasting is another way to actually increase the self-sufficiency rate in Sweden. So we can actually produce and store the food that we have. Another important, and this is very important in the global food crisis that we face. However, I just want to also highlight that any change that we make always comes to a cost, either it be environmental, social, or economic costs. And it's very important that we consider who is going to pay this price. Is it the consumers? Is it the politicians? Is it the farmers that already has a very slim margin in their business? And are we willing to pay this price? Are we willing to buy ugly broccolis? And if we are, how do we make the retailers actually make it available to us? I think this is a really key challenge that we face, and important to discuss as well.
No, if I would add, I would say things like you are doing is one thing to also make sure that waste is being used. And I know also that a lot of restaurants and shops in the grocery stores in Uppsala, they donate their food that is going to waste, starting to go to waste, and they give it to the civil society, and they give it to people who have a low income or a problem to feed their children, and they get the food for free. I don't actually think that we should have to have that, but I am also really grateful and happy that we do have this. So it's like a both way system. So it's really good, and it's actually because you were starting with this earlier, that some people don't have so much money, or it's hard to find good food. And that is actually a problem. It's a real problem, and it's increasing now when you see that the economic crisis is setting in. So it's quite important. And also adding to that, we're also in the municipality trying to pinpoint some schools where we know that there are more families with low income, and trying to have breakfast in the school, because we know that some children are really hungry in the Monday mornings. So there are several ways, but I think what you said before is also really important, and probably the cost as well. Because if you look at an old building, like many families' buildings, usually there's a cellar downstairs, and there used to be like a potato storage, and now you usually redo this to something else. So we once had this sort of system where we could actually store food really well locally, even though you lived in a city, and now we're taking that away. So we could also try to organize our whole society, but it also depends on, are we willing to store our own potato? Are we willing to pay for that extra storage, or do we want it to be like a new flat or something? So there are things to take into consideration, but there are also things that we could do. We could organize how we build. We could have make sure that there are grocery stores close to where you live, so you can buy groceries more often, and then you can buy more fresh produce, and less will go to waste, and then you'll probably buy less of it. So there are many ways you could look at how you organize society.
Thank you. I think fresh produce is a driver of waste, especially in winter, because we are used to having fresh tomatoes and all these fresh exotic things that are not grown here, because we cannot grow them here in winter.
not buying like once a week and it will be not fresh.
No, I know. And I actually wanted to add to this, if I may, that, yeah, another thing that some supermarkets do is to lower the price when the food is about to pass the best before date or expiration date. And this helps people who cannot afford the original price. So when we're talking about food insecurity, and now that we're in times of food crisis, this is something that might help. And then I also wanted to add to what you said, because I think it was really, really good, everything that you said. And to be able to ban food waste, I think we need to have a common definition of what food waste is, which is not easy to have. Just wanted to add that. Can I turn to the audience, see if something's going on here before I give you the mic? Anybody have something to say? Comments?
Maybe me.
Yeah.
I would like to ask about long-term planning. So, because most of this talk was about essentially immediate on a geological timescale, right? Next 20, 30 years maximum. And I'm thinking about phosphorus and soil acidity. Does any of the parties address any of the long-term problems? Because I know that the grassroots movements, they almost always take long-term goals into account.
So the question is, what are the long-term plans regarding?
Are there long-term?
Are there long-term plans
Because
regarding?
reading through the party programs in the last elections, there weren't any.
Regarding soil?
No, yeah, regarding just the general approach to the environment in terms of hundreds of years.
Okay, long-term plans regarding approach to the environment in the next many years,
Yes,
100 years.
and apologies, yes. First and foremost, my question is to the grassroots movement president.
Well, it's a crucial question. I think part of the problem we have now is due to short-termism. Short-termism, like, easy back, rapid profit. So this is for me one of the basic questions to address. For example, and I will make the reflection on another sphere, then come back to food. In the summer, there are sometimes protests for young people in the peripheric areas of town. Gottsunda is famous, Stenhagen, and so on. And then someone is put there, quiets down, and next summer something happens again. So they are not addressing the long issue. Why is segregation there to begin with? Because there's inequality to begin with. Segregation follows a pattern of inequality. So in Uppsala, we have few people that are very rich and some more people that are poor or middle But you have today more and more people in low income having below the poverty level. So one would think long term. I would say, maybe to revert this problem of criminality, of human insecurity, which is then blamed on the refugees. Maybe we could do some long-term planning with tax. Was the liberal politician who mentioned tax is the best tool we have available to redistribute income. But this is lacking. It's too much. And I think, Hanna, you mentioned that sometimes politicians are afraid of doing decisions that are not popular. Yes? So I thank you for bringing this issue. And this would apply to food waste, to food production. And we know that millions of liters of milk are thrown in the ocean to keep the price of milk, profitable. So there is a lot of malfunctions that need to be corrected systemically with a long view. So I would say short-termism, and thanks to who brought the question to you, then I think we could go to research and politicians.
Okay, I'll continue. I I do think that we have some long-term solutions in our product program, but then I'm very biased and and it's like one of our solidarities is like that with the future generations. So we need to think long-term. I do like on a daily basis in my position, we talk a lot about like too much phosphorus in the ground and stuff. And of course, there are very direct things that we can do to prevent that from happening. We should, for example, stop with artificial fertilizers. That is also mostly from that's also mostly come from Russia and Belarus at the time. So it's not it is for many reasons a good thing to do. But I think also like the long-term solution is also to build community. I think that is how we like reach the issue of both the inequality in distribution and the feeling that we are not in control of what we have and what we want and what we need. So I think that is to build community and to build trust, to get to know each other, to help each other. I mean, that is how we need to get through this, I think, in long term.
Should I say something? No, but you're saying it very, very well, actually, with the building society. And like, I think we actually do need a local society. I think that is very important. But probably you're right. We haven't like really addressed like long-term things in like the election programs because they were made for the election and it's like a short-term thing. Maybe we should, but I think maybe we didn't look so far. So maybe we should better up on that thing. But on the other hand, I kind of agree with Klara with like there is some sort of like the whole like sustainability thing that we do want to have a society that goes out in a circle. We want to reuse our waste. We want when we do use a lot of it. Some we do make gas for the buses, and we would like more of it to end up on the fields. And if we do that, we can have less artificial fertilizers, and then some sort of goal anyways. So we could do more on that, but there are ideas, there are visions on how we should actually live in the society, like to make the environment work. Do you want this?
Yeah, it's actually time to wrap up. Like we're supposed to finish now. I also wanted to, I wanted to ask you as a final thing, if you have questions for the audience, if you would like to ask something to all these people, because we are creating a community in this space that we have here.
You mentioned phosphorus. You know, modern agriculture is basically nitrogen. It took 20 years to make the first longitudinal study of the amount of nitrates and nitrates that are cancerogens. So we got cancer like a bonus benefit. Okay? So the long-range view, even for our politics, should we consider, and then keep in mind the importance of diminishing inequality, to diminish the gap between rich and poor, because it's reflected in disease like the pandemics, shown in diet, you know, what we eat, quality, food, and so on. So 1 minute.
Thank you. So I kind of forgot my question, but it was very simple. Like I want to know if any of you has thoughts on like what do you want from us who are in local politics? Like what can we do better? How can we better connect? How can we better like connect to all the things that we said now?
Very good question.
I'll say I want to try to say you took my question. Like yeah, what do you want? What is interesting for you? And actually, this is also I talked to a few of you when we were getting the fika. what did you actually think of this? Because we don't really know. Did you want something more of something, or less or something, or more concrete, or it would be very good to know actually.
We need to finish, but can we let them answer instead of giving them so many questions? Can anybody answer to the questions that have been already posed? Yes, we have one here.
I have a question because you talked about the scholars who have some
But
ways.
you don't have an answer to the questions they asked?
Yeah, it is, but like it's not a question, I think.
Okay.
Why is it not done? Like you said that schools still waste food. Why don't you do anything against it? Is there like a lack of infrastructure or lack of legislation? What's the problem? That's what I wish for. Like, why don't you just do it?
Very good. You want to answer?
I started. So we have this project now where six schools are working in this new way, but there are many schools who don't, and also it's just that it hasn't been done in a large scale before, and like Hanna mentioned also when buying food for schools, for example, it's a lot, and we're working with this. I mean, we haven't really learned how to use the tools right. That is only the only thing that I can say. But we need to be very exact when as politicians when we ask for something. Sometimes because otherwise it won't be like the way that we imagined it, and it will be like only business as usual. So that is we are learning as like an organization. I don't know how many schools there are in Uppsala, and but only 6 schools so far are working like in this particular way.
I can also add like the multi service that actually like having the whole responsibility for the foods in everywhere, not only schools, also elderly care. So they think this is a very important question because then they can also save money. So it goes both ways. So the tricky thing is, I guess, is to like how many portions should you make exactly for each day? Because children or elderly, they can eat different amounts in different days, in different sort of food, and also that they, as you said, that when you have the plate, and especially a child, because they don't always know how much to take, they should be able to like take and retake.
Thank you. Maria over there, you wanted to answer the question?
Yeah, what do you want from you? As part of DFC, something I'm gonna say that we want is to save more food to be wasted. And we've been in contact with the municipality that it's gonna sound a lot like a complaint. You don't need to answer by the municipality or just like
Why don't you come here and grab a mic so everybody can hear you?
taking more time.
Well, it's worth it, I would say.
Yes, so we want to save more food. We hope that we wouldn't have to, but we see that there's a lot of food being wasted, and we want to help more. But for that to be able to do that, we want help from the municipality. We have tried to be in contact with them, but we haven't like succeed in like find the right person to talk to, a bureaucracy and so on. So not for you to answer, but for you to know that we are here, we want to do more, and we would like some help from that.
But this is it also connects to a bigger issue. Like there should be one way in for civil society, and then we should we should get you in touch with the right person, not that you have to like email 50 people to get I can totally see that, because that is what always happens, because we're like a bigger organization, and there should like be one contact person that helps you like find the right path. So that is like a bigger issue, but I can see this happening, and I'm sorry. We will try to find ways.
And I have a question.
Can I just, yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, someone else.
I mean, I'm just following orders here. It's 8 minutes to 8. But I mean, you're the organizing team, so I guess
One last question.
you decide. Can I just add one little thing? Just one little thing because it has to do with what you said. And I wanted to add that when it comes to funding as well, it is almost impossible to find funding for environmental organizations like ours. It's always like young people, sports, something that has to do with culture somehow. But environmental projects, isn't Uppsala supposed to be a very sustainable city?
Contact the actual board, not like any of the
Okay. We'll try that.
Yeah, maybe to wrap it up, I wanted to give the word to Louise, because as a researcher, I feel like there's a lot of things going on there, but they don't reach people or politicians. So if you're working with food waste every day, so maybe I wanted, for you to share something that is like this thing people need to know, or this is a key message for us.
I was as my question to you guys, I was actually going to ask, when we arrive at some conclusions, how do we communicate that with you? I'm not very good at TikToking, so maybe I should not put that out as an option, but we would like actually for you guys to also see what we do, see our conclusions. I work a lot with the life cycle assessment, so calculating the environmental benefits of producing food from what we are wasting today, which I think could be, or at least I hope, be interesting for more people than just me. And in order to actually make an impact, I would like to share that with you. So how would you like me to share that with you?
So it seems like communicating science is something that we can all put some more effort in. Maybe there's room for more events like this one organized by local organizations, maybe, so it doesn't look like it's a lecture at university that only some people have access to. It's a very good question.
So are we talking about people who are interested in the issue or the general public?
I would say both the general public and also people that are interested.
Because so unfortunately, it's an online solution, right? Because Sweden is so plugged in. And so my immediate line of thinking is from social media, newspapers, whatever, just finding publications which are actually willing to publish this and not just yellow journalism and stuff.
Yes, and so the articles that we publish are very scientific and therefore hard to read. That's sort of a requirement. So what we aim to do is to make it more available and accessible to people. So I'll take your suggestions into consideration.
Yeah, well then there's an issue on your side also, because you have to make the language more palatable to the general audience. And then would that require a separate publication that is completely distant from a scientific language? And so then there are two sides to this axe in my mind.
I have to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming, all of you. I want to say that we have a website, we have a blog, we can post articles. If I don't know if that could be also an answer. If the scientific community is interested in making articles that are more readable by the general public, we have a space for that. I'm sure other organizations might have a space for that. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming here, participating in the discussion, sharing thoughts, learning from each other. Thank you, panelists. Can we get a round of applause for our panelists? And another round of applause for the audience. We are glad to see you. And we're continuing the program. Thank you.